Bamborough Castle is 20 miles south of the Scottish border and perched on a dramatic basalt outcrop on the Northumberland coast, and is a testament to centuries of history, conflict and resilience. Its story intertwines with the village that nestles in its shadow. For over 1,000 years, Bamborough village has been shaped by the fortress and its rulers. Join us as we tour the castle, explore the village, and discover a young woman who became a national hero for her courageous role in a daring rescue. Continuing from our last video where we visited the holy island of Lindisfarne, the birthplace of Christianity in northern England, we are just arriving in the village of Bamborough. Its main road winds down to the coast, and very quickly the 1,000-year-old castle comes into view and dominates the skyline. Well, welcome to Bamborough. It's a little bit breezy here this afternoon and there is a lot of people here. It's the May Bank holiday, the kids are now on half term and the village and the castle are very busy. We hope we'll be able to show you around today and see some of the wonderful places here at Bamborough. Opposite the castle is the main village car park. At the time of filming, the minimum stay was 3 hours at £6.50. The castle does have its own smaller car park, which, arriving in the afternoon, we thought would be full. Walking up the steep road to the ticket entrance, we found that it wasn't, and for £5 could have stayed all day, so do check before using the council car park. The castle is open all year round and a very popular attraction. For opening times and ticket information, visit their website. As we head into the grounds, let's try and give a brief background to the history. Long before the current castle was built, another fortification sat on this volcanic outcrop. A burh or borough, a wooden Celtic fort protecting this part of the country as far back as 420 AD. The fortress was captured by the Anglo-Saxons in 547 and they named it after their queen, Bebbanburh, meaning Queen Bebba's stronghold. This would later morph into Bamborough that we know today. It was an important fortress, a natural basalt outcrop, giving a formidable high defensive position, as can be seen with the views we're taking in now. Ruling Northumbria from Bamborough in 635 AD was the Anglo-Saxon King Oswald. At his request, a monk was sent from the Scottish island of Iona to preach the Christian faith in Northumbria. Aidan became the first bishop and built a monastery on land provided by the king at Lindisfarne, just a few miles away and in sight of the king's fortress. From the late 8th century, waves of Viking raids affected Northumbria intermittently for the next 273 years. Much of the kingdom fell into Viking hands, though Bamborough managed to remain under Anglo-Saxon control. The Vikings did ransack Bamborough in 993, burning it down, but it never came directly under their control, unlike York to the south. It faced further upheaval with the Norman conquest of 1066, and a revolt in 1095 saw it become a royal fortress when it was captured from the Earl of Northumberland. It became the Crown's strategic English outpost, and a mighty stone keep was built, completed in 1147, which is still at the heart of the castle today. This strengthened and solidified its role as a key stronghold on the border with Scotland. A convenient royal palace for travelling monarchs, it hosted King John, Henry III, Edward I, II and III all stayed here. By the mid-1400s, civil war was raging across the country, and the Wars of the Roses would deal a deadly blow to the castle. Having withstood all previous armed attacks, the castle was blasted with cannon fire, a relatively new technology. Bamborough became the first castle in England to fall to gunfire. The use of castles for defence declined, and by the early 17th century Bamborough was largely a ruin except for the keep, becoming a significant burden to the crown. King James II gifted the castle and land to Claudius Forster in recognition for his loyal service. However, under the Forster family's ownership, the remaining structure deteriorated further, rendering the castle virtually uninhabitable. In 1700, Dorothy Forster, the last family heir, inherited several estates including Bamborough, along with her nephew Thomas. She married Lord Nathaniel Crewe, Bishop of Durham, in the same year. With hefty family debts, over a period Nathaniel purchased the estates from the Forsters, perhaps as a token for his love for Dorothy. He was heartbroken when she died suddenly in 1715 and made plans to set up a charity to support the castle and village of Bamborough. But he died just 6 years later in 1721, and with no heir he left instructions to form the Lord Crewe's Charity to fulfil his charitable ideas. Dr. John Sharp joined the trustees in 1758 and pioneered the elements of a welfare state, creating a pharmacy, doctor's surgery and infirmary in the castle. There was a school for the local underprivileged children, boys and girls. Food and coal was distributed around the village. The work of the charity went beyond that of Bamborough and incredibly is still in operation today. Dr. Sharp continued to repair the castle and, ever inventive, set up the first form of Coast Guard, firing a cannon in foggy weather from the ramparts and organising beach patrols looking for shipwrecked sailors. In 1786 he launched what is widely believed to be the first lifeboat anywhere in the world. Even with all this success, running the castle was costly, and so it was put up for sale one final time. Successful industrialist William Armstrong, later Lord Armstrong, purchased the castle and embarked on an ambitious restoration project. He started to transform the dilapidated structure into a magnificent Victorian residence, while preserving its historical character. Dying in 1900, he didn't see it fully completed, but successive generations of the Armstrong family have continued to make it their home to this day, welcoming us to the castle in our droves. Having looked around the ramparts and exterior of the castle, let's head inside and show you some of the incredible rooms. The current owner, Francis Watson Armstrong, will give an introduction video before you are free to explore the priceless artifacts in each room, the first of which is a detailed scale model of the castle made in bronze by Carlisle joiner Andrew Smith in 1900. I've mostly taken photos in this next section as it was too busy to film with other visitors to consider. The first few rooms were originally storerooms with vaulted ceilings, and are set as a way to display some of the antiques acquired by the family over the centuries. This room was also used as the estate office following the death of the first Lord Armstrong. The second room was the school mistress's sitting room before being used as a convalescent room and then an office for the second Lord Armstrong. One of the highlights of the stateroom tour is the King's Hall. The magnificent vaulted ceiling looks like a medieval design, but is not what it seems. The hammer-beam teak roof in the grand reception hall is a Victorian-era facade that serves no structural purpose, though it looks magnificent nonetheless. Installed in the 19th century using 300 tons of teak donated by the King of Siam. It's hard to believe that in the 18th century Dr. Sharp used this hall as an infirmary, a hospital for the people of the parish to get treatment for their ailments. Here we see Dr. John Sharp in a portrait, still overseeing the goings-on in the hall today. The painting depicts his desire to improve the waters around the castle, and you can see a ship in trouble out of the window. At one end of the hall is the Minstrel's Gallery, the centre of which holds a rose window, paying tribute to its royal heritage, holding the coat of arms for King Henry VI, who lived here during the Wars of the Roses. The other end features a raised platform, intended for a table where lords or the king could preside over dinners or meetings. This area now contains the Cross Hall, with its Tudor-style fireplace, large Antwerp tapestries circa 1670, and a copy of Theodore Rombout's The Card Players. Above the painting, notice the stone friezes, highlighting ship design across the centuries, from a conical to a steam-powered vessel. Armstrong built warships, and this reflects his passion and clever innovation. The original King's Hall was destroyed by cannon fire in 1464. It was Armstrong's success in hydraulic cranes, shipbuilding and armaments that gave him the wealth to restore the castle. The popular drama series The Last Kingdom was filmed at Bamborough, and an exhibition in the hall showcases some of the costumes and props from the series. The stonework in this corridor is inspired by Christ Church College at Oxford. Lord Nathaniel Crewe was educated in Oxford. A portrait of Nathaniel hangs on the corridor wall, alongside one of his beloved wife Dorothy. The billiard room has a wooden ceiling and large stone fireplace. Lord Armstrong and his wife Margaret enjoyed reading and learning, and the bookshelves around this room reflect their interests in nature, local history, science and engineering. He was an early environmentalist, pioneering renewable energies instead of coal that powered Britain. This footman's uniform was worn by staff at Cragside, his country home in Rothbury. This room was originally a medieval royal apartment and later the castle warden's apartment. In the early 19th century it was a dining room, as can be seen by this lovely black and white picture. Leaving the original staterooms, the fair room was added in the late 1800s and became a withdrawing room for the well-dressed ladies after dinner parties in the 1900s. The men would remain in the billiard room for a game and a smoke. The second Lord Armstrong added this corridor to connect to the keep. Until then it had been a separate stronghold. The corridor enabled access in the dry and warmth. Now known as the Pink Passage, as a lady in pink is believed to walk the corridor looking for her true love every 7 years. As we climb the steps up into the keep, we are heading into the oldest part of the castle. The armoury was originally a Norman chapel built in the early 1100s. It has since been transformed into a captivating showcase of military might. Within its walls, visitors encounter a diverse collection of weaponry spanning centuries of conflict. Pikes and halberds, once wielded with deadly force, share the space with muskets that heralded a new era of warfare. Each with its own story to tell further illustrates the evolution of combat. Once a Norman guardroom within the keep, the court room later served as a manorial court in the 18th century, where fines were issued and rents collected. It even had a brief stint as a classroom. The room still holds remnants of its past, like a secret staircase built into the wall leading to the second floor, cleverly hidden behind wooden panelling. Today the courtroom has been transformed into a portrait gallery. It displays images of the previous owners, the Fosters, Crewe, Sharp and Armstrong families, as well as a portrait of King James I, the last monarch to own Bamborough Castle, and his 14-year-old wife Queen Anne of Denmark, whom he married in 1589. The tour leads us down to the ground floor level, the Keep Hall. Notice the bottle-shaped door. We saw the other side of it earlier. I believe this allowed soldiers on horseback to enter the keep without dismounting. In one corner is the Anglo-Saxon well, 44 metres deep and 2 metres in diameter. It provided a clean source of water for the castle back in the 7th century. It's quite possible that King Oswald and St Aidan drank from this well. We now enter the kitchens added in the 19th century renovation. This includes a bakery for making fresh bread, pastries and cakes. In the scullery, the copper sinks were reserved for washing the finest crockery, while the enamel sinks handled vegetables, pots and pans. Interestingly, these sinks lacked plugs, serving the additional purpose of curing meat and fish. The salt and brine were carefully removed in buckets to prevent corrosion of the pipework. Ever resourceful, Lord Armstrong devised an ingenious rainwater collection system, ensuring the kitchen always had plentiful supply of fresh water for cleaning. Of course, we can't leave the castle without seeing the dungeons, which were incredibly dark. Venturing back into the castle ground, a captivating medieval encampment awaits young adventurers. Here, amongst the historic backdrop, children can immerse themselves in the past, engaging in activities like cooking over hot fires, crafting traditional garments, and even learning the art of sword fighting. The castle proudly hosts a variety of enriching events like this throughout the year, so be sure to check their website for the latest goings-on. While this structure may resemble a lighthouse or a defensive lookout post, it was in fact a windmill, a testament to Dr. John Sharp's vision and compassion. Faced with poor corn harvests and struggling villagers, Sharp established the Castle Granary, offering affordable corn to the community. This mill once ground the corn into flour, enabling the villagers to bake bread and sustain themselves during challenging times. Also in the West Ward, you'll find the Armstrong and Aviation Artifacts Museum. You might wonder why here. Well, the industrialist William Armstrong, who purchased Bamborough, established a manufacturing company in 1847. This successful venture eventually evolved into Armstrong Whitworth through a merger. The museum's fascinating exhibits include aero engines, components, artillery weapons, and aviation artifacts from both World Wars. There's even an Armstrong Siddeley car manufactured by Armstrong Siddeley Motors, company formed in 1919. In 1927, that company merged with Vickers to become Vickers Armstrong. Another notable development was Armstrong Whitworth Aircraft. It's a truly remarkable industrial heritage, unexpectedly showcased in the castle walls. Leaving the grandeur of the castle behind, let's stroll along Front Street in the charming village. As we explore its quaint cottages and historic parish church, we'll uncover the tale of another remarkable local figure. The 13th century saw the castle expand, and with it the population flourished. The defensive walls could no longer contain everyone, leading to the birth of a new village just outside the protective embrace of the castle. As Bamborough's significance grew, a Dominican friary was established in 1265 at the village's far end. Today, only remnants of its walls linger in residential gardens, a reminder of its dissolution in 1539 and subsequent redevelopment. While the medieval houses have given way to newer structures over time, the straight road leading from the castle and the village's tightly packed layout remain largely unchanged, preserving its historic character. It's important to note that the villagers didn't own their properties. Rent was paid directly to the castle, a testament to its enduring influence and authority. In the centre of the village is a V-shaped green covered with tall trees. This was once the site of a sand quarry that Lord Armstrong used to rebuild the castle. Called the Grove, it's possible it was the location of the village market in medieval times. Front Street has numerous gift shops, galleries, tea rooms and a popular butcher's and a couple of pubs to enjoy. The Potted Lobster is at the very top of the street for more fine dining. Behind the Grove on Radcliffe Road is the 13th century Church of St Aidan. One of Aidan's acts was to establish a church here shortly after becoming bishop for King Oswald. The current church is built on that site. There is a shrine to Aidan inside the church, as it was also the place he died in 651 AD. It's open between 10 AM and 4 PM daily, and sadly it already closed by the time we arrived here. The crypt in the church is also the home of the Bamborough Bones, a collection of 110 skeletons dating back to the 7th and 8th centuries, unearthed from what is believed to be the burial ground of the Royal Court of Northumbria. The remains were discovered just 300 metres south of the castle, and in 2016 were interred in the crypt. In the churchyard is another grave of importance, that of Grace Horsley Darling. Immediately across the road from the church is the Grace Darling Museum, which is free to visit and dedicated to this heroic local. In September 1838, the SS Forfarshire steamship, en route from Hull to Dundee, encountered a severe storm and suffered a catastrophic boiler failure. The ship was driven onto the treacherous rocks of the Farne Islands off the Northumberland coast, where it broke apart. Amongst the chaos and raging storm, Grace Darling, the 22-year-old daughter of the Longstone lighthouse keeper, spotted the survivors clinging to a rock. Displaying incredible courage and determination, Grace and her father, William Darling, launched their small rowboat, a cobble, into the tumultuous sea. This is that very boat. Battling against the waves and fierce winds, they reached the survivors and managed to rescue 9 people, including a woman clutching the lifeless bodies of her 2 children. A lifeboat crew from North Sunderland also arrived and assisted in the rescue efforts, recovering the remaining bodies. Grace Darling's heroic act captured the nation's attention, turning her into a national heroine. She was celebrated for her bravery and selflessness, receiving numerous accolades and becoming the subject of poems, paintings, and even a popular ballad. However, her fame was short-lived, as she tragically succumbed to tuberculosis just 4 years later. On Front Street is the cottage where Grace Darling died. There is a plaque above the door. Higher up Front Street is the Victoria Hotel, on the site of a public house where the Forfarshire inquest was held following the disaster. Today, the village and castle still live side by side in harmony, drawing visitors from far and wide to explore the history and see the beauty in this gorgeous part of Northumberland. Next time we'll head south of Bamburgh to another charming village with its imposing castle ruins. Let's take a look at what's to come. Nestled on the Northumberland coast where the River Coquet meets the sea lies a village steeped in history and charm. Warkworth has a magnificent medieval castle that stands sentinel over a lovely village. Join us next time as we stroll its quaint streets and discover the history of its ancient ruins. Subscribe now so you don't miss the rest of the series. See you again soon.